This is so weird.
What's the challenge?
Well, they have their new toy, this new camera that's sitting like 6 inches over the computer screen. So I'm going to be looking down the whole time. Anyway, Tass, we're live. This is airtime, man.
Oh, sorry, I was distracted.
Yeah, not a problem. Hey, buddy.
Are you talking to me or someone else coming to the office?
No, I was talking to my buddy.
Oh, that a boy.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, so anyway, we were just talking about clients all over the world in Germany.
Uh-huh.
And it's interesting because believe it or not, just this last time we were talking on the phone 5 minutes ago, believe it or not, I actually was paying attention this time.
Is that right?
Yeah.
To something else or to me?
To you.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's a rarity, but when it happens, I want you to know.
Let me just mark that in my daily journal.
Yeah, put it down. Metzger paid attention. But it's funny. You said something on there, how certain people will say, oh, well, we can't do things. We can't do that here, but they're breaking the rules in other ways. And it's funny how people choose on their moral compass on what they can and can't do.
Right on.
It's just funny.
And that's everywhere, right? That's everywhere.
Yep. That is.
Speaking of overseas, Mr. Audie, what's happening? He's going to be at the Super Show.
Hello.
Coming from Australia.
You want to turn that down, that sunbeam?
Did you get new lights too?
Like, I'm working on the tan.
You're going to start sweating before the show's over. You're like, whoo, the light's hot.
Anyway, so hope everyone's doing well, that we're, coming into the second half of June. For most of us, it's summertime. But anyway, schools are either thriving or not as summer approaches. But the topic of the show is, do you teach well or inspire well? And there was a reason I came up with that topic. But what's your thoughts, Tass? Do you think you're a better teacher or a better inspirer? Not perspirer.
There was this guy I know that said, why not have both? You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can do both, right? I think that for me, right, if I was to judge my own class, and this is always hard to talk about yourself, but I think there's times that I get too much on the inspire side because of the way I communicate, more telling than teaching, more explain than experience. But I think in the way, this is me speaking, someone may think differently, but in the way in which I do it, I really believe that it draws people in and helps on the teaching side. So, I think if I had to pick, I'd say probably I'm a little bit more on the inspiring side. Then probably that's my edge as opposed to the teaching side, if I had to pick.
So I want to ask you this, but while I ask you the question, hey, let me ask the question, everybody that's watching, all 14 of you. I'm sorry. Thank you. All 13. We just
left. Yeah, corrected.
As soon as I want to ask a question, they start jumping off. 12. We're down to 12 now. Hey, let me ask the question though. How, if you had to tell somebody in a sentence or two, if that's even possible, how do you inspire students? How do you do that? How do you inspire students? So I'd love to see your responses. And then Tass, you said that you might lean a little bit more towards, inspiring more so than the teaching, even though I know you're a great instructor, right? Because we've shared the floor together. So I know that. But do you say that because you because you talk a little bit more than the average instructor, and you think that's inspiring? Like, what makes you think you inspire people, your students, a little more than you teach them?
I think, and I've always tried to do this, but I've probably been more mindful of it, recently. Um, we have conversations all the time about talking and making sure that people understand the reasons for things, right? And so we can get people out there and just do, round kicks on the shield as an example, right? But I think it's a great workout. They're going to get sweaty, and arguably maybe they're going to have fun blasting the bag. But I think giving people the reasons and the understanding behind why we do what we do helps on the teaching side, because when they understand the reason, they're going to want to excel and be able to do what you're asking them to do. So, yeah, I would, for me personally, it's one of the things I've had to work on. As a matter of fact, I've had to have instructors tell me, give me the 5-minute warning for class, because I'm the guy that'll run over class because I feel like, I'm just delivering. As a matter of fact, I know when we were together on the floor, I think that's your personality as well, because I think we had to make the announcement, look, we know time's up. If you guys need to bow off the mat and head out, we totally get it and respect it, but we just want to give. And that's just part of our nature. And it's not always it's a great quality to have, but when you're the last night of class is one thing, but during classes, during the day when mom's got to bring a kid to dance, or they got groceries in the car, or dinner's waiting, we got to make sure that we have the discipline of the martial artist to be on time and be prompt. But yes, the answer to your question is, I do believe that I probably talk more than I should when I'm teaching. But when you get feedback from parents and they're telling you how much they enjoy classes, a lot of that's anchoring. And of course, there may be people that don't enjoy it that are just gone, right? And they never give me that feedback. So, but yeah, that's what I would say is it's probably a little bit more talking than teaching.
And so here's the thing, by the way, do you want to read the comments on all the ways to inspire?
Are they on here or on Facebook?
They're nowhere because there's no comments.
Oh, I was a little confused for a moment. Yeah.
Hey, so the question was, everybody, what's more, let me ask you this, let's make it simpler. What do you think is more important, inspiring or teaching? And I know both, but what's more important for your students, inspiring or teaching? Hello, everybody. Hello. Mike Asmar, sharing experiences. Yeah, well, that's a way to inspire, right? But now, what do you think is more important? And there's a reason, guys. Listen, there's not a big attendance on here right now, and I think here's a response. I think it's because people don't know why this is so important, teaching or inspiring. We have instructor colleges. All of you have heard about instructor colleges, right? And in an instructor college, a lot of times you're going there. I know this from Maya. I know that people have purchased and they are attracted to, you could buy this program, 100 dynamic drills you can do in your classes to keep classes exciting, and we'll buy that. Have you guys ever seen 100 ways to inspire your students? I haven't. I don't know where you could buy that, 100 ways to inspire your students. But you guys are answering the question. Inspiring, hands down, inspiring. And then Mr. Wall says, I think my job is to teach, but I hope to inspire to learn. Well, that's the thing. Without inspiration, you're going to lose your students, right? You guys have to understand this. Something inspired that parent or that adult to pick up the phone and call your school to start training in martial arts. Something inspired them to do that. Once they get in there, Mr. Barshard, once they get in there, you all also know that inspiration changes or goes away. It is our job to continue to inspire so you can continue to teach those students, or else they quit. And every single one of you have an attrition rate. Every one of you has an attrition rate. And all of you watching this will lose more students than you keep to black belt. You will lose more than you keep. But if you train and understand how to inspire those students throughout their journey, is it possible? Is it possible? I'm not saying anybody's done this, but is it possible to keep more than you lose because you train and practice on how to inspire your students? Now, the one thing is in the task, I'm going to throw this to you. You cannot generalize inspiration. You cannot just get a piece of paper or a script and say, this is how you inspire someone, because everybody is inspired by something different. If you were a woman who was attacked and they join your school because they want to learn self-defense, I have to inspire her differently than the 8-year-old kid who just saw the Karate Kid movie. There's different inspirations, which brings me back to the point of you got to know your customers. You got to know your customer. You got to know your students. And this is where everything comes in full circle. Why is it that we say every one of your students should get a phone call every quarter? That's 4 times a year, right? If you had 300 students, that's 100 calls in month 1, 100 in month 2, 100 in month 3, and repeat. Next quarter, 100, just to touch base, leave a message, tell them how great they're doing, no agenda, show them that they're important, because that by itself is inspiring, right? When you tell somebody how great they are doing, everybody wants to know they're doing something great, right? That's almost a generalized deal there. That's inspiring to everybody, but at what level, right? But then you got to know your client, know your customer, and know and remind them why they originally joined your school to begin with, because they will forget. And that's something else we call mat chats or progress checks. You bring them in the office, say, Mrs. Johnson, do you remember originally when you came here and you enrolled your son, Billy? Do you remember originally what you told me you'd really like to see him get out of this program? They may not remember, but you do. Why? Because you wrote it down and you looked at it and you reminded yourself before you had that meeting, and you get them back in that place that they originally came to begin with, right? And hopefully you're delivering. Or the adult students. So you got to inspire. You got to know how to inspire your students, because that's going to generate better retention, higher active counts, more revenue, better quality, better students, and better communities. Go ahead, Tess. Any thoughts on that?
I just had a similar conversation with you last week. Like, it's so hard to teach what it is that we're talking about right now. And I think, and this is not a knock on instructors or assistants or chiefs that may not be owners of the school, because there are some unbelievable chief instructors and assistants and head instructors. But I think they're the small percentage. And the reason why they're so good, in my opinion, is because they take the same vested interest in the students and care about the students just like the owner would, right? So why are owners typically, like the owner operator that's on the floor teaching, why can they do so well with classes, in a lot of cases, and with retention? Well, because they know their people and they care about their people, right? It's not just about, my job is just to go teach XYZ form and this self-defense move, and all right, I'm done, punch the clock, and I'm out, right? And I'm not saying that people don't care about people, but I'm saying really take a vested interest and be mindful about it. I've been back in the school, and really just want to take things to another level. And I don't know if I shared this last week on here when I showed the child that who was a white belt. It might have been in this one, or maybe it's a different venue. Long story short, there was a white belt. We were doing a jab cross, slip cross drill. I was doing it as a 4 count, and the kid was getting ahead. The 2 kids were getting ahead of me, and he got ahead of me, and I warned him once, and I warned him again, and then I had him do. I said, all right, that's 10 push-ups, and those are for discipline, right? I want to be sure. And then they started saying, one of the kids said, well, and he started making excuses. I said, okay, now it's 20. And the kid walked off the floor, then left, walked out of the school. If that's all I told you, and that was because this happens a lot in these things and on Facebook, that's the snapshot that you got, you could think, dang, what a jerk. Like, the kid's a white belt, right? And Dave Kovar would fire this guy because he was doing public reprimand instead of public praise and private reprimand and all the things. But the rest of the story, I went outside after that class. I spoke to the mom, had a good conversation with the mom, started to really understand who this child was because I care, right? Knowing the customer. Kid comes into class 2 days later. He shows up, and I don't know, I probably didn't, I don't think I shared this with him, but he comes in 2 days later. I go, Joe, you came back to class even after I was so mean to you last class? And he kind of looked at me, and I go, now I know you're a warrior. And like, he just lit up, right? And now I understand, and most people operate this way, right? But he knows what my expectations are in class, but I also know how to coach him as well. And most people love praise. Lynn Metz said it earlier. Most people love praise. He was in class again after that. And I want to give you the full circle. He was in class again after. I said, Joe, come over here. So now I'm playing the hard card, even after the third class. Joe, come here. I said, we got to go outside and talk to your mom. And that's like the energy that I gave it. So we went outside. I said, do you want to tell her or do you want me to? He's like, well, tell her what? I said, that you did amazing today, right? And he lit up again. I said, Mom, he had an amazing class today. I'm so proud of him. That's a kid that's going to stay now, right? But there's expectations on the floor. But I always talk about, I've been saying this a lot lately. I think when we have disciplined classes and structured classes, which I believe are important, right? You can have fun as long as they're structured. But discipline doesn't being mean or, just getting on kids to get on and dole out push-ups to everybody. Discipline is done out of love, right? Punishment is not. So a lot of times I think people punish the student in class, and I use punish probably as more of an abrasive term, but they get on the kid as opposed to discipline the kid and then close that circle with love before they leave that class. Because if you discipline without closing that circle with love, that's a student that may not come and probably won't come back to you. But if you get to the end of class and you say, you know how you did the second half of class? That's exactly what I was waiting for. That's how a black belt would do it, right? Give them a high five and send them on their way. But I can think of several examples just being in the school this last week and a half where I've walked out. There was an intro that came in and they took their first group class. After the group class, they left and they were on their way outside and I was looking for them and I saw them. I ran outside to go chase them down, right? So I said, hey guys, sorry. I said, I just want to check in. How are things? How was class? Mom, how'd you enjoy it? Talk to the child. Oh my God, she loved it. That 30 seconds that it took me to have that conversation after their first class, they came to their second class where they were on a trial, where they enrolled and they happened to take advantage of savings and pay in full. Would that have happened if I didn't chase them out the door? Probably. But if I can maximize my chances of, number one, being a great leader, number two, providing great customer service, if I do all of these things, it's just going to increase my chances on having a more successful school. And so, I can give you 100 different other examples, but I think your mind is almost like, as a chief instructor on the floor, is like the Matrix, right? You're watching the front door. You're watching your kids in the class. You're watching the parents in the lobby, talking to the parents in the lobby, watching the kids that are in the lobby. Is somebody outside? Like, there's so much stuff that's happening and going on in addition to just teaching the students. And if we can pay attention to those things and know exactly what we need to do, it's going to go a long way. And I'm going to give one last example. Friday night, we had our team intensity practice. And Metz, I'm not a weapons guy, right? Like, I was a Taekwondo guy for 100 years. And we started doing weapons, 10 years ago. And so we have our team intensity. And I had them come on the floor. And they were all warming up, bow, staff, chuck, sword, whatever, commas. And I literally was standing there getting the chills. I'm like, dang, these kids are freaking good. Like, I was so impressed. And so I stopped the class. I said, guys, all right, everyone stop, have a seat. I said, I can't think of a better way to finish my Friday night than watching you guys. I said, you guys have been, I said, I'm so blown away at how good you guys are. I said, and I can't wait to see us get to the next level. So I make that comment. The parents are there. They're listening. The students are now inspired. And then there was this girl, Samira. And Samira is in middle school. And her chucks form, I was like, you got to be kidding me. It's incredible. So classes got done, 8:30, whatever it was. I send mom a text, right? I say, hey, ma'am, just want to shoot you a text. I know it's late, but I just finished class. I didn't want the day to go by without letting you know how amazing Samira did in class tonight. Her skills have come so far, and just want you to know how impressed I am. Ironically, the next morning I go to breakfast with my son. Mom happens to be our waitress for breakfast. Mr. Tassoul, I just got to tell you, oh, thank you so much for the text message. She said, you know, Samira's been having a really hard time in middle school, a lot of bullying stuff going on. She's had a really hard time at home. And honestly, she's been thinking about wanting to quit martial arts. I read her your text, and you should have seen how her eyes lit up. And now she wants to come back to classes on a regular basis. We don't know who we're going to affect, man. Like, you know, how do you put that in a documentation, right, Metz? Like, you need, like you said it, call 100, if you have 300 students, call everybody once a quarter. That's a great way to do it. But you also need to know your client, know your student, and know who they are. And it only can help your school. It can only help.
Hey, so I want to say a couple of things on the 100 student call, guys. Based on a 5-day week, Monday through Friday, that's 5 calls a day. Right? That's if you have 300 students. That's 5 calls a day just to leave a message as soon as you get in. Let's make 5 calls, tell everybody how much we appreciate it. So don't overwhelm yourself, but it goes a long way, number one. Number two, you never know when it's a student's last class they'll ever take. I mean, sometimes you do, right? If somebody says, hey, he wants to quit, we're not renewing, of course. But there are students, think about this for a minute. This will blow your mind a little bit. Let's say you only have 100 students. Let's make this real simple. You have 100 students and you have a 4% attrition rate, which TAS is good. I mean, it's not horrible, right? 4% is a good retention, right? Your attrition. So if you're 4%, that means you're
not a good retention, but a good attrition.
You're losing 4 students a month.
Yep.
Right? Is it weird to think that you taught classes this week, and next week, one of the students you taught this week will not be there next week. And then next week, one of the students will not be there the next week. And the next week, one of those students. Now, in your example with Samira or whatever, do we think she's quitting? Was that her last class after what you did in a text?
No.
The probabilities are very high that it was not her last class, right? So how do you do that for all of your students? You need a mechanism. Now, I'm going to tell you a real world story, and I'm going to challenge all of you on this. As I tell this story, and you don't pay attention if you want to put this in here, but what I'd like to know, and I think we can learn from all of you and take it and maybe use this, is if you can put in the comments, what inspired you to start martial arts? What inspired you to start martial arts training? I'd love to hear what some of your answers were, whether you were an adult or a child, but what inspired you to start martial arts? But here's another thing. I took my daughter to class on Tuesday night. There was another teenage boy in there, and I'm sitting in the office with the program director, the manager, and I said, "Who is that young man out there?" And she said, "Oh, it's his second class. He's on a trial." So I called the instructor and I said, "Hey, make sure you partner up my daughter or somebody with him, someone his age, because he's going into 8th grade." Because I asked him, I said, "Hey, how's it going? You're checking class?" He thought I was a creepy parent, I think, because I was just dressed normally, right? But anyway, I said, "Oh, my daughter's in class too. You know, she's going into 8th grade as well." And I said to the instructor, and this is where I will challenge you guys to do this today. I said to the instructor that I said, "Hey," I said, "who are these 3 girls over here?" There were some girls in they didn't even have uniforms yet. We were waiting for uniforms to come in, but they were on a trial. Well, I said to the instructor, I go, "look at the assistant out there. The assistant is not correcting and paying attention to them kicking the Wave Master. He had them doing some kind of kicks." The difference was, and I can't do it because this camera doesn't move, but these girls were coming up to the Wave Master basically, and they were kicking like this. I don't know if you can even see it. Like,
well, first of all, what's wrong with that kick, Metz? I mean, I told you I was better at inspiring than teaching. I'm just trying to figure out what was wrong with that kick.
Oh, in Wisconsin, nothing.
Oh, all right, perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
nothing. In Orlando, it's just there's better. Okay, let the hate start. I'm kidding, everybody. But here's the thing. I said, "Hey, these girls There were 3 of them. I don't know if they were friends, sisters. I don't know what they were. I said, they're not going to enroll. I said, they're not being corrected. And here's the challenge for you guys. I said, there's no win here. They know. I'm talking private. I'm just going to be straight how I said it. I go, they know they suck right now. And it was their first class or something. I said, they know they're not kicking this right. They know there's no power in their kick. They know they're not even doing it correctly, and no one's correcting them. So when they leave class tonight, what inspires them to come back? I said, they know it wasn't good. I said, here's your job and here's your challenge, instructors. I said, they need to get a win. They need to have a win tonight in class, right? As I was saying that, this kid, this 13-year-old kid or whatever, the kid I was talking about earlier, was like doing side kicks on the Wave Master and he knocked it over. The kid knocked over the Wave Master, but he like pushed it.
Right.
I said to Miss Fisher in the office, I said, he just got a win. He's signing up tonight. Make sure you get the dad in here. Because I saw his face and the instructor went, oh my gosh, got a high five. And I saw his face. He knocked it over and he was like, he felt bravado a little bit, right? They came in, signed up right after class. Dad came in. She said, how's it going? And you want to do this? He was like, yes. He signed up because he got a win. And that win inspired him. He knocked over the Wave Master, not realizing that he knocked it over by like pushing it with his foot, right? But he knocked it over. Every single student in class that you teach, you got to try to get them a win, right? In their minds, they got to do something where they feel like they achieved and a win, meaning they feel really good about something they did in that class. And you're going to retain them for another class. And by the way, as instructors, that's all you need to do. You just got to retain them to the next class. That's it. Retain them to the next class. Retain them to the next class. And your job is to keep the students that you have and do the best possible job at doing that. And that is not only teaching great martial arts, it's teaching great martial arts and inspiring great future martial artists. You've got to inspire them to keep wanting to come back. And you guys don't fool yourself. When you dismiss a class, look at everybody in here and think, if you had to pick one, and there may be more than one, but if you had to pick one, who do you think has the highest chance of not coming back tonight, after tonight? Which student? And if you pick one that you feel that if anybody was going to quit tonight, it's going to be that person. As an instructor, ask her, well, why do you think that? Well, because of blah, 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 blah. Okay, rewind. How would you have changed that now? Well, now overcome the objection before it even becomes an objection. So don't let that happen again. Teach the next class differently. You got to learn how to inspire your students to want to keep coming back. I mean, it's just so important, right? So,
and to that point, Metz, I mean, you said it, right? And obviously we want to be proactive on these things and be able to spot those things. And, maybe there's a class where it just, you didn't make the time. Let me say it that. This is where Kovar talks about that. I think the 3x3 rule is what it's called, right? Praise, correct, praise, whatever you want to talk about. But praise, win, praise, right? Like you find that win for them. And that's, I feel like sometimes me and my youth, right? Teaching classes, I know parents bring their kids. I'm speaking to the kids' schools right now, right? For 2 reasons, confidence and discipline, right? Adults we know come for self-defense and fitness, right? So, but let's just say it's confidence and discipline. Those are really the 2 main reasons. I mean, they can tell you, well, they're just looking for something fun for their kid, blah, 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 all the stuff. But that's really the reason why they're there. So if I know that to be true, I need to be able to make sure that I'm providing that discipline. I'm providing that confidence in class. And when a parent sits back and watches and there are no corrections making, because I was afraid to make, as a matter of fact, years ago, I had a mentor that said, don't make corrections in the basic class. Was the worst advice anyone could ever give, right? Don't make corrections. There's a right way to do corrections and a wrong way to do them, right? But making those corrections, and then when they do it correctly, that becomes that win. So when you're following that 3x3 rule or praise, correct, praise, and you're going down the line, and I like to say, give everybody in class a mini private lesson. What I mean by that is spend 30 seconds with each person individually in class and just work with them on certain things so they feel like they've got that little mini private lesson, you've got that connection. But even if I for some reason I couldn't get to it, and I love that idea and that concept, if after class I look and say, man, if one person was going to quit today, who would it be? Well, what I would do if I have the team and staff to do it, I'd say, Johnny, hey, before you leave, let's work on this a little bit. Let me see if I can. I'm going to spend 2 minutes to see if I can get them fixed and get them that win before they leave and walk out that door. I don't want them walking out there without that win. Yesterday we had 2 kids that came in and they need to work on. We do form combos. They need to work on their form combo, and these kids, in 4 minutes that they worked with the assistant, went from kind of having it to looking really pretty good. It doesn't take a lot of time. It just takes a little bit of thought, but it comes from caring first to have the thoughts that you want to go and actually help these people.
By the way, that goes a long way, just like you did with the Samara girl. If anything, if there was a student that you just looked like kind of wasn't into class, they kind of were half-assing it a little bit, right? They're teetering probably, like they're not interested. I mean, you guys are smart enough. You could read your class. You could see when a kid is just somewhere else, or even an adult, when they're kind of just dogging it, half-assing it a little bit. You call them over after class and take 1 minute and say, hey, let me see something. When we were doing the warm-up punches, let me see something. Do that hook punch again, or do that cross, or do that jab. Do that again and snap it. That's what I mean, you got an unbelievable snap to those punches. That is unbelievable. If it's a kid and you walk that kid over, hey, before you leave, Mr. Johnson, listen, today I saw that he was getting a little tired in class, but earlier I noticed this. Show mom, snap that jab on that pad, snap it. Well, now the kid's going to want to show off in front of his mom. That is unbelievable. That is a phenomenal punch. High five, man. That is a great job. You got an unbelievable snap. You just possibly saved the student. And here's the thing. Check this out. Here's another thing I said that could boggle your mind. Now, I used the 4% on 100 students. But what if you have 200 students, right? You're losing 8 people every month on average. You're losing 8 a month. 2 students this week are gone next week. But check this out, everybody. Check this out. What is your recurring billing check, right? Your recurring monthly tuition coming in, right? Let's just pretend it's $5,000 a month, right? And I'll keep it low, or maybe for some of you it's $30,000 a month or more, but it doesn't matter. Let's say it's $5,000 a month that your monthly check is, that people are paying their tuition. You want to try to keep a student forever, and that can be overwhelming in our minds, right? But if all you do is keep your average student a month longer than they would have quit, just 1 month longer, on an average, you just gave yourself a $5,000 raise, right? If you just keep your average student a month longer, you just got an extra $5,000 into that school. Of course, you want to try to keep a student all the way to black belt. And we can overwhelm ourselves thinking, man, it's 4 years, 5 years, 10 years to black belt, 3 years, whatever it is. Just keep them 1 month longer. And the thing is your brain doesn't know how to measure that. So if you focus on, my goal this month is to just keep every student 1 month longer than they would have quit, you're going to do things to retain your students better. And a lot of times it'll come out to more than an average of a month, right? And this was years ago, but my school down in my Avalon Park location, 1 year, for the entire year, they averaged a 1.9% attrition rate for the year. That is unbelievable. 1.9%. So let's just say it's 2%. Here's how that math works out. If you're at a 4% attrition, right, that 2% is half that, right? So if you had 200 students and you're at a 4%, you're losing 8 students. They're losing 4. At the end of the year, they have 48 more students they kept. By the end of the year, they have 48 more students than that school who lost 4%. Well, 48 students at just $100 a month is $4,800 a month by having that attrition rate half of that 4%. So the attrition rate is a huge deal. And we don't spend enough time as an industry on retention driven skills and focus, because in this industry, and if you don't believe me, come to the Super Show next month, you'll see. We'll be standing in the Maya booth, talking with people, helping people out. We're going to say, like we always do, how can we help? Nobody in 20 years has come to that booth and said, I just need to retain better.
Yeah.
They've never said that. I need more students, or I need to generate more revenue in my school. I need more students. But the number one answer is I need more students. Do you guys understand that even if you enroll 2 students a month but never lost any, you'd be the biggest school eventually in the history of martial arts? Eventually, you'd be the biggest school.
Well,
right?
And statistically, right, you said 4% is a good attrition rate, right? We agree on that. It is, right? I mean, because it's in the industry for people that track, I mean, it's relatively good, but why does it have to be that high? Number one, right? Number two, try this on. That's 48% if you equivalize it over the course of 12 months. Over the course of 2 years or 24 months, you've basically turned over your entire student base.
At 100 students.
It's 96% of your student base, right? So regardless, I mean, it's a percentage.
Oh, yeah, 4%, right.
So you've turned over, and people go, well, that's not that. No, that's not true. Well, it is true. I'm not saying that 100% of your students that start today won't be there after 2 years. But what I am saying is you'll have 100% turnover of students that are in your school. Some might have been there for a while. Some might have been there for a week, a month, 2 months. But we always like to conveniently forget, because we don't track numbers as well as we should, about, oh yeah, that white belt that started and quit. Oh yeah, that person got yellow belt and they're done. Oh yeah, there's all of those people. And when you think like, okay, 1 a week, right? That can be a lot, or, well, it's not that big of a deal with 100 students. They just kind of get swept away, which is why retention needs work and why we need to work on, lowering that attrition. So that for me always has been eye-opening. And then you can start to play with your attrition numbers, because for a lot of you get to that point where, you hit this 150 or 200 student mark as an example. And we can play with the numbers either way, but if you're at 200 students and with a 4% attrition, you're losing 8 a month, and you're in your recruitment and your marketing is only bringing you 4 or 5, you are dying a slow, painful death, right? And so you don't realize it, but all of a sudden in 24 months, you're like, how are we only at this many students? Well, it's because you haven't out-enrolled your attrition rate, right? Or you haven't lowered your attrition to allow your enrollments to be higher than what your attrition rate is. So there's so many things, and I love the discussion. I think we talk about, well, the best way to retain a student is teach great classes. Well, maybe the best way to retain a student is to inspire them and teach them and make sure that they leave with a win. Like, that's a little bit more specific, right? Because when I hear that all the time, even me, man, my mind is numb to that. Like, yeah, of course. But as I'm thinking, well, what's easier? What's the easier play? To deal with a student that's in front of you right now and inspire them and give them a win and encourage them to come back to class? Or try to do MIA phone calls or MIA postcards to get them back in? It's way easier to take care of it when they're in front of you. And that's why every class they come to has to be a great class for them. Not just what you consider a great class, but a great class for them to inspire them to come back.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of martial arts schools all over the country. Part of the Maya program back in the day was we would travel to different schools. I mean, I was visiting schools for years, right? I never met an instructor when I asked, hey, I've said this in seminars, raise your hand if you are a horrible instructor. Nobody raised their hand, right? Raise your hand if you're just not a good instructor. Nobody raised their hand. Because if you raised your hand and you knew you were a horrible instructor, you had already done something about it. So who are you to judge whether you're a good instructor or not? And then you know what a lot of people said to me? Well, my students are with me. They must love me. They know I'm a good instructor because they're with me. I'm not looking to talk to the ones who stayed with you. I want to talk to the ones who left, right? Did they leave because they were bored? Did they leave because they didn't feel inspired? Did they leave because they weren't getting their win? Or did they leave because they moved? right? At the end of the day, you have to have an unbiased opinion to let you know how you can improve as an instructor. And you do need to be able to teach well and inspire well. And the only way somebody can determine that is by looking at all the faces on your mat and off the mat, especially if you work with kids. Are the parents engaged in what you're teaching their kids, or are they on their phones? Are they paying attention? Are they looking up? Or are they distracted? Don't have them be looking at their phones. Be so dynamic that they're listening to you and paying attention to what you're doing and inspiring. And by the way, there's ways to do that. But you're right, Tass. It's like praise, correct, praise, praise, correct, praise. People hear that so much, they just don't understand how to praise properly, how to correct properly, how to pray. And it's broken down. I think Dave Kovar is the master at that stuff, right? He's great at that stuff. But it's about making your students feel special and feel good. Everybody likes to feel good. Everybody likes to feel like they're doing well. And it's about having that win, and you're gonna instantly start seeing it. And here's the last thing I'm gonna say about your attrition rate example, Tass. All of you have experienced this. Every one of you have experienced this. When you opened your doors, your school grew, and it was like da, 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 da. And then did you hit a plateau and you don't understand why am I just stuck at 100 students or 200 or 300, but I'm stuck, or at 80 or at 50? Why am I stuck? It's because you're losing as many as you're enrolling. So either enroll more, retain more, or get better at both. And then it's exponential. And you'll see explosive growth if you can do both. So,
Yep. 100%.
oh, thank you to Fleetwood Martial Arts.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. So anyway,
yeah.
What do you want to talk about now, Tass?
Nothing. We're good. Well, let's inspire everyone to go and inspire others, right? So,
hey, you people like to make people like instant gratification. Instant gratification. I challenge you tonight to get every student you teach to get an individual win on your mat. And if you say, I'm a one-man, one-woman show, man, it's just hard because I have 20 people in class. Okay, yeah, it's hard. Success isn't easy. Make sure everybody has a win. Yep. You know, I mean, make it happen.
And sometimes we forget as instructors. I'm going to give the first example, then flip it back. Announcements. You make announcements day 1 of classes. You make announcements day 2 of classes, and then you stop making announcements. Like, well, there's no freaking way nobody heard the announcement. I made it 25 times. Well, the student that didn't come in Monday or Tuesday, they haven't heard it. I know you've said it every class, but everybody else has only heard it once if they've only come to class Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. So my point in saying that is our job in what we get paid and what professionals get paid to do. Professional receiver, right, on an NFL football team gets paid to run routes and catch passes. The same routes, it's the same, right? There's the number of routes they're going to run. We get paid to teach great classes and to rinse and repeat. But every time we're on that floor, it's showtime. And that is the stage for us. All eyes are on us. If they're not, they can't throw tomatoes and things at us, right? But if they could, they would. So think about that, and you're on stage. So sometimes we get on the floor and we're like, all right, yep, basics class is next. All right, come on, guys, let's get lined up. All right, we're going to work on, and they're there, and it's their first or their second time for the week. You need to be inspiring to them and get them motivated. Look, you could find 100 reasons why you're not inspired to teach a front kick. I mean, you started when you're 8. I started when I was 9. I've been doing front kick for 30 freaking years, man. 40 years, right? So it's a long time, and so it gets boring after a while. But you need to figure out a way to make it fun, make it exciting, which is all about disguise and repetition, and do that for every student in your class. And it'll be interesting to see if you really start tracking things and you're mindful of this, right? To quantify it, to see who's coming back, to see the responses you're getting from the parents. I promise you, if you put more out there and you give this, more attention, you're going to hear responses back from the parents. It's going to be natural. And that needs to be the fuel to keep you going, because that's going to get you from where you are to where you want to go.
Yep. And as you say that, I always thought of this when I was teaching. I thought about the musical acts, the old timers like Billy Joel, Elton John, right? And like, for example, Billy Joel sells out Madison Square Garden like every month. He plays every month Madison Square. He said, I'll do it as long as people are buying tickets. Billy Joel has been singing Piano Man since 1970 or something, right? And every month he's got to perform that song again. And by the way, he's probably sang Piano Man more times than I've thrown a front kick, right?
Right.
I would think about that in my head. This is a new audience, a new crop of people. I got to put it on. I got to kill it. I got to crush it. By the way, he could be sound asleep singing that damn song. We wouldn't know the difference, right?
Right.
But you still got to bring it. And guys, this is basic. Look, this is not a sexy topic where you're talking about inspiring, but you all want the rewards from what the basics would give you, from what this would do for your school and your business. We all want help. We're not all willing to do what it takes, right? I mean, we just aren't. Hey, I was going to put go check out Century Martial Arts School Network, everybody. Go look at the Century Martial Arts School Network. Somebody posted a good question. I'm getting ready to move locations and I need to raise rates. How much do you all charge? I called some of my guys in here this morning and I said, go look at the comments there. People don't even realize what they don't know and how much we could help so many of these people based on their answers. But I did not see when I read it. Maybe there's something up there now. Even some of my guys commented, right? Here's what we charge. We charge this. That's not the question should be asking. The question that this person should be asking is, I'm moving and I want to raise rates. How do I do that with my existing clientele? It doesn't matter how much we charge. You shouldn't be asking, how much do I charge? That's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Get on the phone and let's talk about, well, look, what would you like to charge? What are you currently charging? What do you want to do? Okay, let's talk about how we could do that with your existing people without upsetting them and see how we can do that to where they're more than happy to pay a little bit more, but by choice, not by force. And that comes down to inspiring them to want to pay more. And there's a way to do that by providing enough value for them to do that. My point is this is basic stuff. And our industry, it drives me nuts, guys. It drives me nuts that there are so many of you out there that we can help. And you're afraid to call us or text us or do whatever they do in this day and age. Because you're afraid, I think, of change. You're afraid that we're going to just try to sell you. You're going to put a mental block saying, oh, they just want my money. I mean, all the weird answers, they're not weird. They're not bad answers, because there are some sharks out there. There are some people that just want your money. But I've said this 1,000 times. I genuinely believe that the consultants in our industry can help you grow more than wherever you're at now. I really do, right? I believe that. I believe your peers can help you grow more than where you are now. If you guys just start sharing ideas, you'll take some good ideas, implement, and grow. But in our world, my job is not to get you to grow and do good. My job is to get you to do the best you possibly can in your business. And I just hung up the phone with somebody and I told them, this is not theory. We're doing it. We live it. We breathe it. You come to I just told the person I talked to, I said, get on a flight, invest with your instructors, fly down here. I'll spend some time with you and come see the operation so they have a better vision, right? I mean, it's like, come and see. You guys can have your cake and eat it too. I don't know what it would take to inspire more of you on a bigger level. Because everyone's tentative, everyone's scared, everybody has ego a little bit, which isn't bad, but it is what it is. Go ahead.
But listen, I'll speak to that, right? It's fear, and it's fear because not everybody. How do I say this? I think we're more transparent than most, and I think we're more willing to help for most without an agenda. The agenda would be, if there's a right program for you, we would certainly put you on that program. That's the agenda. But I think there's this fear of reaching out because people don't want to get hoodwinked or bamboozled or whatever it is. And that was for me, and I've said this over and over, but for me, that was the attraction to Maya, was the transparency. And so much to say is that's why I got started, and that's what helped change my life, right? So yeah, we're out here. We're willing to help anybody and everybody, and we'd love to do that. But we're not going to come to your school and pick up the phone and call for you. You got to make the first step, right? You got to make the first step, and hopefully we can inspire you at some point. Maybe it's on a Mets Tassoul show, maybe it's in at the Super Show, maybe it's an event that we do where we can inspire you and have you come on board to try it out. And the only way for us to we can try and figure that out, or you can reach out to us. We can talk a little bit about where you're at with your school, and if we think we can help, or if we think we can't, right? And we'll be honest as far as that's concerned, and let you know. So, we're here for you guys and happy to help any way that we can. That's just what we do.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining. Go inspire. Your challenge again is every student you teach tonight, have them walk off that mat with some kind of win, feeling really good about themselves that they did something really great tonight. And I promise every student you teach tonight, we'll be back for another class. So
Right on.
do it. And we will see everybody next week, Tass. We in town?
Got it.
Next week's good?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Then I'll see you next week.
All right.
All right.